So what I'm going to do is try to get as much of the potato and least of the amount of skin as I can from these Yukon Golds. It's okay if I get a little skin, but as you see, it's going to be easy to avoid. And just those few minutes in the fridge allows me to handle this. And look at all that skin really stays intact. Now just use my palm stretched out. If you got your fingers in here, you're going to cut your fingers. This is called a knuckle buster. We don't need those. All right, so skins, where are they at? All right, got them there. Went a little too far on that one. I'm gonna grate all these. What a cruel prank. Hey buddy, you want some cheese? Here's some. Some poor little kid. It's the best thing to do it on. They got the best reactions. Alright, save my skins on the side. We're doing this at home. I'm not looking for perfection, you know. I'm looking for gnocchi. So I don't really care if there's a whole lot of skin in there or not. I'm gonna take the bulk of it out, but it's okay. Using my palm. If I'm using my fingers here, I'm gonna lose a fingertip. And I don't want these, I mean, you can make this with cold potatoes, but I feel like it absorbs some of this. I mean, it really binds nicely and is a little more malleable once we start adding flour. And I like this recipe so much because it's straight to the point. I love recipes that are pie doughs that are 1 pound flour, 1 pound butter. And this is 1.5 pound potato and 1.5 cup flour. It's so easy to remember. For me, like, you know, when I'm hanging out with friends and he's got potatoes and he's got flour and he doesn't know what to do for dinner, it's like next time I know, oh, I need 1.5 pounds. And so by this, I know I need about 6, 7 potatoes. And then I need a small bowl of flour. We can adjust. And after you make this a few times, it becomes easier. And then you get a little more knowledgeable about consistency and what it should be. Last potato here. Last time I did this with really hot potatoes. So it was like hot potato, hot potato, hot potato. But I think the cooling down was a little nicer. Okay, so I've got all of my potatoes shredded. Now, take my peepers off. I'm gonna look through because I want everything about the same consistency. I don't want, you know, I don't want like large chunks like this in my gnocchi because that's gonna be a little harder to break down. As long as everything is just about the same, we won't have inconsistencies when we start to chew. Okay, we're good. All right, so I have in this bowl about 2 cups of flour. So our recipe calls for 1.5 cups, but I know I'm gonna need a little bit for the table. I know I have to sacrifice and condemn the floor. So I'm gonna go with 2 cups, knowing that I'm gonna leave some in the bowl. So I'm gonna start by adding my all-purpose flour. So we'll go, look at everything's contained. I have a nice work surface. Nothing's too dirty yet. Don't worry, you'll get flour on the ground in a little bit. Okay, I've probably added just over 1 cup. Now we start to make our dough. And don't rush this. Don't think this is not gonna come together. This is too dry. Just keep folding. What you're doing with this is you're building gluten. You're building a structure. Gluten, imagine when you're building structure with gluten. If you took a rubber band and you kept folding it. Imagine if you had a rubber band that you could continuously bend and bend and bend and bend, and then keep bending around. So what you're gonna do is create a structure that will hold together. And so I'm doing this now by taking and folding, and we can see that it's coming together. Look at it's holding together. Now I have a dough. If I would have added my whole cup and a half all at once, this could have been a little dry. But what I'm gonna go for in this recipe is slight, sticky, little tackiness, which I've achieved. And then I'm just gonna knead it until I feel like I have that nice pasta dough. And so I've come to a point where it's a little too sticky as I'm kneading. So I'm gonna add a little more flour, mostly to my hands to incorporate, but not too much. And I don't wanna bend this too much because then we're gonna have really tough gnocchi after it's cooked. So what I'm looking for is this nice ball. We don't have too many cracks, so we can tell that our gluten structure is there by pressing on it. I have small cracks. It's holding its shape really well. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I don't wanna overdo this. There's a lot of recipes out there that also call for eggs. And you could do, I mean, eggs will help with this and keep everything together, but it's not exactly necessary. So at this point, we're gonna lose every need for a clean workstation. Okay. You don't need a fancy wine glass when you have potato hands. You need a mason jar. All right. This is probably perfect for a dinner for two. If you're looking for a dinner for four, you're gonna feed someone, you need to bump your 1.5 pound potato, your 1.5 cup flour. You wanna bump that up by 2 to 3 and 3. But this is probably perfect for you and your lady, you and your man and you, your man and his lady and her. Anything, it's gonna go. And what I'm gonna do is start forming this into a log. I don't want my log to get too long, so I'm gonna work with a smaller piece. I have a nice floured workstation, and at this point, I know flour's gonna hit the floor. And I know that I'm gonna have to clean it up before my wife gets home. So we're just gonna get this out of the way. And we're just gonna put a little flour on the floor. Just to get it out of the way and so I don't have to worry about it. All right, gnocchi, 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 gnocchi. And so I'm using my fingers and rolling it. The hardest part about forming gnocchi in a nice cylinder pattern, like really the same, so this side's still a little bigger, is when you roll it, my hands naturally go out here. And so I end up either pressing too much and splitting the middle or not pressing enough and the middle stays a little fatter. So I like to also use my thumbs to, I'm kind of squishing and pulling, squish and pull to make it longer and to decrease our diameter. Because when we cook this, and I can always roll again to form a nice shape. When we cook this, our gnocchi is going to absorb water in that gluten structure that we built and grow in size. So I want to go out to probably about a 1/2 inch. Okay, at this point, I don't want to save it. I don't want to try to bring it back to life. I'm going to cut it and return to it. All right, same thing. Mistake, it's okay. It's okay. All right, I think we're about there. We're at about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little more. And so now I'm gonna aim for just under 1 inch. And now we start to see, oh, it looks like gnocchi. Plastic bench scraper. Fantastic. I'll take my pieces and I'll continue. I'm pretty happy with the gnocchi right now because it's fluffy. It's not hard. It's malleable. It's soft. It's really it's giving to my pressure, but not crushing underneath it. So I formed a nice gluten structure, but the goal is that I didn't knead it too much to where it's so stiff, and when it gets to the mouthfeel after it's cooked, we really are hoping for a cloud. We're aiming for a cloud, which is really hard to achieve, a cloud of gnocchi. That's impossible, actually, but that's okay. If you just enter this knowing that you're not going to get a cloud, that you're going to try to get as close as you can, you're going to feel better about your gnocchi at the end of everything. We're not done with it all yet. So we can hold this off for after. I like to work in a rotation, in a direction. So I'm going to bring all this back over to this side. I have my fork. I'm holding my fork parallel to my surface. Have it in my hand, and this is my action. My action is towards my fist. And so what I'm going to do is take my gnocchi. I'm not utterly concerned which direction, whether it's up, down, where the cut side is. But what I want to do is press it under my thumb, catch it. I plan on an indent being on one side and there being grooves on the other. So I don't need to press too hard. It's more of a flick. And so I'm going to press and flick and drop. And so we have as an indent that catches our sauce. On the other side, we have grooves that also catch a different amount of sauce. And so we're going to continue. This is the satisfying part. I can feel a piece of potato. It's nice and soft. It's not crumbling under pressure. It's not resisting too much, but there is a little resistance to the nice structure. And so if necessary, just douse my fork, get off the gunk. Again, I'm looking for perfection. We're just taking little clouds of gnocchi. I chose this recipe because I love the simpleness of it. I mean, using a fork to make your grooves, getting flour everywhere. This is not perfection, we're feeding ourselves. You already took the time to commit to making gnocchi, just finish. And I love that both sides are different. I love that we have grooves. And then we have this deep pocket, which is going to catch so much sauce.